proved she had lived. Whatever Circe's mom's intentions, her actions had consequences. 6 days and nights passed, and the smell of her daughter began to fade. She stood outside the door one evening, asking, praying, begging. She was afraid to ask for too much, scared to beg to be awakened from a nightmare and find everything as it had been before. That felt like a jinx. Her requests had become smaller and smaller, until there was just the one thing she was willing to ask for. She'd only ask that her daughter's scent would linger a little longer, deep in her pillow, in the kangaroo pocket of her favorite hoodie, in an unwashed bandana. Circe's scent had faded from so many things. Even Dizzy, the stuffed bat that Circe had kept on her bed since childhood, had become so void of scent that her mom had let herself remove it from the room so she could carry it around. She had it with her that evening, as she prayed. Let the sage and dirt and citrus smell of her daughter hide in just a few places. Let there be something she could bury her nose in and bring the feeling of Circe into her. She asked for that, silently. What mattered wasn't who or what she implored. What mattered was the power of her wanting. What mattered was the meticulousness of the ritual she'd created. What mattered was the stuffed bat she clutched in her hand, pressed into the hollow of her throat as she prayed before opening the door. That unique object of her daughter's affection, that fuzzy curiosity. That was what mattered most of all. When Circe's mom opened the door and saw that someone was in the bed, she knew it wasn't her daughter. She was spared that twist of cruelty. It wasn't Circe. It wasn't anyone she had seen before. It wasn't anything she had ever suspected might exist. It was a darkness in the darkness, very still in the moment she opened the door, then suddenly a quiver, as if it had been startled. But it wasn't a shadow. It was a cloud. It rippled as she stepped into the room, her fist clenched. Something was in her daughter's room. Something was on her daughter's bed. For the first time in a week, she was filled with emotions more powerful than despair. She was filled with fear and rage. She wanted to crush the cloud, the stuffed bat's crumpled wings sticking from either end of her balled fist. The cloud had a shape when she first opened the door, a shape that was dissipating now, a large animal, somehow poorly made. It reminded her of knotted rags. She rushed across the room, and the cloud ripped itself to tatters, became a fluttering of scraps. They were all over the room, fleeing from her, as if her anger and fear drove them. Up the walls to the ceiling, into the high corners, down the walls to the floor, away from her. She screamed and flailed her arms, jumped on the bed to try to get at them, jumped down, chasing. In waves, they poofed out of existence, just like that. Gone, gone, gone. She stopped screaming, stopped trying to punish the cloud for being in her daughter's room. She stopped moving. The remaining cloud specks calmed, gathered, drew toward her. She didn't move, only breathed. The little mass, no bigger than a penny, all that remained of the cloud, floated in on the tide of her breath and slipped up her nose. It was Circe. An odor, deep and pungent and present, the strongest trace of her that her mom had smelled since the night the girl went away. Longer than that, because this wasn't teenage Circe. This was toddler Circe. Doughy spit up, powder, her downy hair, a little poo. It hit her and she couldn't stand up. She fell to her knees, bringing the poor mangled bat to her face to wipe her tears. And that's when she remembered that the bat, Dizzy, had not always been Circe's favorite. Before Dizzy, there had been Sparky, a malformed rag pony they had made together. Circe had loved Sparky, keeping the toy in her grubby hands until it was coated in dirt and baby food and drool and snot. Then she saw Dizzy on a drugstore shelf, discounted the week after Halloween, and she'd had to have it. She began